All right, guys, we've got our Green Bay Packers preview here. Again, another one as we go along. We are on 7, 8, or 9, one of those here, as we preview every single team in the NFL. And hopefully, again, we move that over quick. Hopefully, again, we get a better sense of what these teams are by the end of it. Get to take a deeper dive into what these football teams will look like, hopefully coming into the new year, what they can accomplish, what they can't accomplish. And yeah, should be a little bit of fun. But here we are, the Green Bay Packers. This is our second team from the NFC North. We have done the Bears already. That was the second one we did. So a couple of cheeseheads right here. So last year, again, the Packers did not end their season the way they would have liked. The year started really, really well. Everything looked really, really good. But injuries toward the end of the year, Micah Parsons with a significant one. Jordan Love was missing games. Ended their year on a 4-game losing streak. And then the season ended on a full meltdown against the division rival Chicago Bears in the playoffs. Yeah, not ideal. And again, big injury stuff. Again, you lose Micah Parsons, who's, a top 2, 3 edge in the league. One of the few players who can just demolish game plans from that position. And again, Jordan Love, the quarterback, who had a really excellent year last year. So just really unfortunate kind of the way that unraveled, because again, that looked like a 1 seed for a really long time. It looked like a team that was gonna genuinely contend, and it just kind of falls apart injury wise, from 2 pretty major positions. Micah Parsons, again, we'll talk about in a little bit, but he's gonna deal with that injury for the first 5 to 7 weeks of this season as well. But otherwise talented. So unfortunate there. Finished top 4 in offensive EPA, top 2 in pass offense EPA, which is, again, pretty fantastic considering we missed 4 games of Jordan Love, and LaFleur did an excellent job with Malik Willis. The game plans were really, really great. Defense wasn't as high, but again, missing Parsons for large chunks. And when you're looking at defense like that, it's all about kind of just, well, when the offense is that good, it's all about the defense just getting a couple stops here and there. And when you have a player like Parsons who can blow drives up on his own, it's a pretty significant miss. And again, second half of that Bears game, it was just Bears points, Bears points, Bears points, and you're going to go through stretches like that when you can't rush the passer as well. So an unfortunate year for Green Bay. We'll see what it looks like this year. But again, there was so much good last year. Again, 20th in rush offense, 2nd in pass offense, 4th in total offense. Defense, again, was in the 22nd total, 22nd pass defense, 14th rush defense. So solid up the middle. Pass defense, again, you can kind of throw a little bit on them, but Micah Parsons makes it so dangerous that he can end drives that way. So really good. Again, they were really good last year, and just that's the way football goes sometimes. It's just really unfortunate, and there's not much you can do about it. But there's always next year, and next year is here. So hopefully this year we're looking at another Green Bay Packers team that is good. Some of their losses, some of the roster losses. This is a pretty big list, unfortunately. Trayvon Diggs, who, Rashawn Gary, who was okay, nothing spectacular, but out the door at edge. Romeo Doubs at wide receiver. Quay Walker, linebacker. Elgin Jenkins at guard. Dontavion Wicks at wide receiver. Enigbare at edge. Rasheed Walker on the line, and Emmanuel Wilson at running back, which is a decent loss there, particularly if when we get to that room, we'll see what happens there. But those are some pretty significant losses. Again, Dubs was pretty good. Dontavion Wicks I liked, though he probably couldn't afford to pay Dubs, and there's talent here in the wide receiver room. That's a loss. Rashawn Gary's a loss. Again, Jenkins, Enigbare, some of these deeper guys, Emmanuel Wilson, these are all losses. So it's it's a lot of guys out the door that you don't want to see go out the door necessarily, but roster constraints, salary cap, all that fun stuff. You just have to sometimes. They added a couple good players here. Javon Hargrave on the defensive line there, Zaire Franklin, linebacker. Benjamin St. Juste, corner. Sky Moore, who's probably just going to return kicks, though could theoretically do a decent job as a backup wide receiver. And then in the draft, Brandon Cisse at corner, Chris McClellan at defensive tackle, Dennis Sutton at defensive end, Jaeger Burton at center, Damani Jackson at corner, and Trey Smack, kicker there. We don't talk about special teams on here very much, but you're hoping Trey Smack is just somewhat decent because the guy who left wasn't kicking very well, despite his career being decent enough. So let's jump into the roster. We'll start where we always start, quarterback. Jordan Love. Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. I think his public perception is a little bit odd. Not a little bit odd, because I have found that public perception just sits on aesthetics a lot more than any actual real play. So Jordan Love probably gets this sting here and there because he does have his, silly moments. He has his bozo moments. Josh Allen has a similar type of not a gene. It's not a gene. It does get called the bozo gene. It's not a gene. It's just it's just the brain shuts off for a sec, and you get some weird interceptions and things. Like Jordan Love had that one where he's backing up in the end zone and kind of just flips it up, and that gets pick six. Like, he has a couple of those every year, and I think people hold that against him, like he's not a good quarterback because like some of that stuff exists, and I just don't live in that reality. I live in the Jordan Love is a top 10 guy reality. He's my quarterback number 8. Last year, second in pass EPA, PFF's 5th rated quarterback, 4th in pressure to sack rate, 8th in big times throws. The efficiency just in general was through the roof. 23 touchdown to 6 picks while missing, again, 3 to 4 games. ADOT is the 8th highest, which he's throwing down the field. So he's doing all this while throwing it deep down the field pretty comfortably. Again, I just think he's an excellent quarterback. 3rd in QBR last year, 2nd in raw QB rating, 6th in total EPA added, despite missing 3 to 4 games. And again, that's just an accumulative stat. Everything's good. The tape is good. The statistics are good. Everything you do related to Jordan Love is good. And again, I think his negative perception is a little bit funky because of some of those funky plays he has, but to me, this is a pretty comfortable top 10 guy. I don't see it in terms of him being rated like 13th, 14th, where some people have him. This is a really good quarterback who has been nothing but ultra efficient for 2-3 years. This is a very similar, like, to Dak. We spoke about Dak when we did the Cowboys one, where I think Dak's lack of winning in the playoffs has kind of destroyed that reputation a bit, but he's another one who I think is pretty comfortably a top 10 guy. So Jordan Love, I wouldn't want too many other quarterbacks here, and he's put with a really, really great play caller in LaFleur, who does everything really, really fantastically. And sometimes his game plans don't necessarily work, but a majority of the time they work to a really fantastic level. There's like, the way he sets up game plans is funky because if they don't work, they really don't work, and you can't get out of it. But when they work, they're like ultra elite. So there's like they're either brilliantly good or horribly bad. There is no in between, and they're more brilliantly good than not. But the horribly bad ones stick out, and some of them kind of just sit. If one happens in the playoffs, like, it's a bit of an issue. And again, LaFleur's not perfect or anything. We're just talking about his game plan stuff. Some of his some of his just like game management stuff, like last year was bad. But in terms of calling plays, just really fantastic. So again, Jordan Love is the guy. He is a guy. He is a top 10 guy. A genuinely really good quarterback. Back up here is Tyrod Taylor, who may have a little bit left in the tank. He's not as good as he once was 3, 4, or 5 years ago. But, we'll see. Kyle McCord, younger fella, still on the team here. Hopefully he can, have a battle with Tyrod Taylor there. Again, having a battle with him and kind of get into that second spot would show growth. That'd be nice. Kyron Drones comes in. So the backup room is decent. You hope you don't want to see it again. You hope you kind of get like a good 17 games out of Love. And Love is not like someone who's been super injury prone, but he missed 3 or 4 games last year, missed 2 games the year before. You'd like to see him get all the way through at some stage, but we'll see. But let's jump into the weapons here. The wide receiver room to start. Christian Watson is a really good player. I'm not sure where like this idea that he's like not a good player is. A really just brilliantly elite deep threat. 122.5 passer rating for Love when targeting Watson. He does only 1 drop last year. He does have his injury problems here and there. Again, obviously he just missed a whole year, but he was really excellent last year. This is a really good player, and the receivers here are probably just another step up. And they lost Dubs, and they lost Wicks, and perhaps that 4th spot is where it gets noticed a little bit. We'll see. You got Savion Williams there as a rookie, Bo Melton, Sky Moore. You're hoping somebody steps into that 4th spot and is good. Probably not Isaiah Nay or Will Shepard further down the list there, but you're hoping someone steps into that 4th spot. That's where the drop is. But everywhere else, there's no real drop. I expect Matthew Golden to just step into the Dubs role. That was what his role looked like coming out of college, I thought. I think he's supremely talented, and we're not far off having just good Golden conversations. I think he's had another weird, PR type of player where he's missed a couple, he's had a drop here or there, and just like the player itself wasn't producing last year at a crazy rate. So, that drops a little bit, but there's a really good player there, and I expect him to be fine. Jaden Reed was injured quite a bit last year, but when he's healthy, he's a really good slot guy. I really like this wide receiver room. And again, LaFleur's going to call up plays, so if they're just catching balls, they're going to be just fine here at wide receiver. I think this is a borderline top 10 group as a whole. Running back. This is an interesting one because I don't think it's super deep. And Josh Jacobs, as good as he is dealing with some outside stuff. And we'll have to see. When he's healthy, he's good. He's kind of stepped back a little bit last year, only 4 yards a carry, and he does get a huge workload in there. This is where I think the Emmanuel Wilson loss is relatively significant, because if there's suspensions and things coming for Josh Jacobs, then it's just Marshawn Lloyd, Chris Brooks, Pierre Strong, and I don't particularly love that room. Marshawn Lloyd's been having a good camp, it sounds like, but them being the 1, 2, 3 there is a pretty significant worry, and I'd feel much better if Wilson were here still. I think he went off to Seattle, but yeah, so you don't want Josh Jacobs kind of going anywhere, missing games, and if he does miss games, then this could be a problematic room going forward. But again, Josh Jacobs is a good, solid running back. This is like an average room right now, but him missing would make this a pretty bad room, regardless of if Marshawn Lloyd comes in and he's just like solid. We're talking just in the talent range. This is a little bit difficult to kind of look at without Josh Jacobs. So you need Josh Jacobs in there. You need him playing games, despite all the off-field stuff. So we'll see. Again, if Josh Jacobs were to miss a lot of time, might get a vet signing off the way off the free agent wire if there are players around, but this isn't a good room beyond Josh Jacobs, and with Josh Jacobs, it's just about average. So there's significant room for this room to drop off going forward. Tight end, Tucker Kraft is a really good tight end. Just top 10 guy. It's a really good room with him. Again, Luke Musgrave's solid. Injured at the moment, but solid. Josh Wiley, Drake Dabney, a little bit extra depth. But Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave are a good one, too. Tucker Kraft is a genuine top 10 guy. Elite. They call plays for him. He's always open. It's just need him to stay healthy. And you hope Luke Musgrave comes back. And he's a solid, too. Again, there was, when he was drafted, thought he might get into that realm, but between when Luke Musgrave was drafted and when Tucker Kraft came in, there's been like a pretty significant shift in some of these tight ends. Some of these dudes are fucking freaks, and Tucker Kraft is one of those guys. But Luke Musgrave was like coming in, and you're like, this is a pretty decent tight end, and he looks like he's going to be a good tight end, and him being okay is, an average return, which is fine, but like, man, some of the tight ends in the league are fucking nuts. And again, Tucker Kraft is one of them, a really good tight end. So hopefully you're looking at a really good tight end room. And again, I really like the weaponry here. Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed. Those are good pass catchers. We'll see what the rest looks like. We'll see what running back looks like as we go along. But again, the pass catchers in a LaFleur offense with Jordan Love throwing the ball, we really, really like. As for the offensive line, this is a not so great unit. Let's just be honest. It is just not a good unit. We've got probably one really good player here, and yeah, that's kind of it. We'll start with that good player. We'll start with the positive. Zach Tom, or Zach Bacco Bowelli. I believe he changed his name. It looks like he's changed his name like a week ago from when I'm making this video. So Zach Bacco Bowelli, formerly known as Zach Tom, top-ranked PFF tackle. He's been putting in really good performances since he came into the league four-ish years ago. Didn't give up any sacks last year. Only one penalty, 16 total pressures all year. This is a really good tackle. Simple as that. You have a genuine, really good player here. After that, there's a pretty big gap down to the rest of the offensive line, which is not good, not what you want to see, particularly when we've only gone through one of the 5 starters. Not good. At guard, we have 2 not so great performers last year. Aaron Banks was bad. He's had 4 bad seasons out of 5, and that one good season happened to be in a contract year where they overpaid, but he's not had a good career so far. And again, 4 bad seasons out of 5, a bad season last year. Anthony Belton had a bad year. I will say that I don't evaluate like players for potential too much in terms of like on the offensive line. A lot of the people I trust and like who do evaluate players in terms of what they can be and what they will be do tend to like Anthony Belton. That being said, the upside may be there. It needs to come to fruition a little bit because last year again wasn't good. Sean Ryan was a bottom 7 center last year. There's just not a whole lot of good going here. The run block was okay. Pass blocking was really, really bad. And these defensive tackles are getting better and better and better every year, it feels like. Jordan Morgan moving out to left tackle. Did a lot of moving around last year, but wasn't very good. We'll see if him taking consistent snaps out there or getting a bigger sample of him playing left tackle week in, week out. Will improve that a little bit, but wasn't very good there. Rookie Jaeger Burton, who was drafted a bit later, is probably the best depth piece on the interior, which is problematic, particularly as a middle to late round pick. Donovan Jennings, Jacob Monk, not ideal. Jacob Monk was okay in his very limited snaps last year, but there's no sample size there, and he's sitting behind them for a reason. Brant Banks, Darian Kinnard, backup tackles, nothing great there. It's a problem, and when the offensive line is a problem like it is, where we have one good player and four not so good players, and we have problems at depth, any injury really shrinks it even more. Like, we're talking bad players on the offensive line and then really bad players at depth. So even when you're bad on the offensive line, there's room to drop off, and God forbid something happens to Zach at right tackle, we're looking at a bottom. Like, if Zach Tom wasn't here, we're already looking at a pretty bad offensive line, a bottom 5, 6, 7 unit. But if Zach Tom weren't here, we're probably looking at the worst unit in the league. So it's going to be an issue. And that is the place that holds the offense back, I feel like. Again, Josh Jacobs not running as well. The offensive line not being as good helps contribute to that. But, Josh Jacobs a big bumbling back. So hits behind the line of scrimmage may not be what we're looking for there. Again, I really like LaFleur. I do like the idea that he's going to scheme around a lot of this stuff. And again, Jordan Love last year, 4th best pressure to sack ratio. So he's very capable of running out of bad offensive lines. He's very capable of scrambling and doing what he needs to do. The biggest problem, again, will be he'll have to do it a lot more probably, and you don't necessarily want that despite how good he is kind of getting out. So again, I think there'll be good schemes around it. There'll be issues to kind of deal with the offensive line as we go. I still expect this to be a really good offense overall, but there are issues here. As for the defense, this is an interesting one. It's going to have to do its best to float while Micah Parsons is gone. There are a few holes here, and again, last year it was 22nd against an EPA per play. And you're kind of you're missing Micah Parsons, who's really great, and then we'll talk about the rest of the units, but you're gonna have to float for the first 8-ish games here. Until he comes back. But we'll start with Micah Parsons because he's the best player here, and we can get the injured guy out of the way first. Top 2-3 edge rusher pretty comfortably when he's healthy. PFF's 3rd best edge last year. Top 3 PFF in 5 out of his 6 years in the NFL. The only year he wasn't top 3, he finished 6th. So he's been grading well forever. We've all watched him. We don't need the grades to tell that he's an elite pass rusher. 14 sacks in 14 games, 79 pressures, 51 hurries, 21 stops, 2 forced fumbles, all while missing 3 games last year as well. So this is a elite player, one of the top in the league. Again, a top 2 or 3 edge rusher, probably two behind Myles Garrett, and probably will be the number 1 should he come back from this healthy. That being said, again, this is a tough injury for edge rushers in particular. They do a whole lot of bending, a whole lot of getting down low, a whole lot of bending at the knee when you're kind of getting around tackles and stuff. So we'll see what that looks like when he comes back, but potential problem. I don't want to say he's going to come back 100%. I think he'll be fine. But I would like to see him come back and be 100% when he comes back. It seems like week 6 is the target for them. So again, the pass rush is going to need to float without him. When he's in there, if he's healthy, it's a top 5-ish pass rush. Without him, it's a it's a different story. It's yeah, not ideal. So let's go through the rest of the line. Lucas Van Ness will be on the other side of him. This is a spot I like for Van Ness, who has kind of been, I want to say, groomed into like this role ever since he was drafted. Everyone assumed he was a developmental kind of guy, and he's been developed slowly. And this is it. Like, this is where we're at with Lucas Van Ness. If you're going to take the position, now's the time. But he was a top 25 edge rusher in his snaps last year. This is a full-time right end role now for him, and again, this is what we're looking at. This is where it has to happen. Again, he was solid last year. Hope he takes another step. This first 6 weeks, he's going to get a lot of attention from offensive lines, so need him to be sharp right from the jump. And when Micah Parsons is back, need him to be sharp in his one-on-ones, because Parsons is going to open those up for sure. Baron Sorrell, Brenton Cox, Dennis Sutton, the rookie, they're all going to have to step in and hopefully give good snaps while Parsons is gone. Again, we expect a full-time role out of Van Ness. The rest is they're going to have to fill in for him, and you're not going to get Parsons' production there, but you're hoping to get solid just snap by snap. You're hoping to get a little bit of something there as they go along. There's not a lot of good production out of those guys. There's a middle round rookie in there. It's probably, again, going to be a problem until Parsons comes back, but you're hoping that you can just find the hot hand for a game or two, find another hot hand, find someone who's just going to get back there. Just Van Ness can hopefully do a lot. The interior, maybe take some pressure off there. You're just hoping for something enough to kind of float for a little bit, but without Parsons, it's not an edge room that we're looking at and thinking really great things about. Interior's okay. They add Javon Hargrave, 37th on PFF for interior defensive lineman. He's getting a little bit up there, and he's starting to fade just a little bit. So you hope that he can play well going into the season. Third round draft pick McClellan is slated to start right now. So hopefully he can hit the ground running. And again, interior defensive lineman, I think it's because, the way we view draft picks, first round, second round, third round, like defensive linemen, centers, and guards get like an extra round buffer because those guys just don't get taken very early unless you're ultra elite. This is probably a good player. Again, third round pick is probably closer to second round when you're looking at defensive linemen on the interior. So in terms of talent, hopefully he can step in and do a job right from the jump next to him. Devontae Wyatt didn't play particularly well last year. Has had an up and down time since he got drafted here. But you're hoping that he takes a step, and being next to two other guys who hopefully play well, maybe he does take a step with less attention kind of involved on him when Micah Parsons comes back. We'll see. But again, wasn't great last year when Micah Parsons was there, along with, Rashawn Gary and stuff. So we'll see what that looks like. The depth here, problematic, very similar to the offensive line. Stackhouse, Brinson, Brooks. They weren't very good last year. And we spoke about the depth behind Parsons already. He was not very good. So very similar to the offensive line. An injury to this unit could see its quality drop pretty aggressively, particularly in the first 6 or 7 weeks without Micah Parsons. We could be looking at a pretty bad offensive or defensive line should we get an injury or two in there. Like if Javon Hargrave misses time and McClellan doesn't hit, the first 6 weeks of this season on that defensive line could be really bad. But again, when Parsons is here and you're getting Van Ness one-on-ones and Hargrave one-on-ones and McClellan hits the ground and he's solid, really good. Excuse me. There's a really good side. Linebacker is solid. We'll see. Zaire Franklin comes in. He didn't have a good year last year, but there's a solid, talented player in there. Or maybe the Colts are just selling duds to everybody. Also, that could be after the Giants released Okereke, that could just be what's happening also with the Colts. But again, he wasn't good last year. We'll see. But he's been a pretty decent player most of his career, so hopefully he can kind of step back into it. He'll be next to a good player, Edgar Cooper, solid 18th ranked linebacker last year according to PFF. And again, if you get a really solid player next to Franklin, and maybe he doesn't have to be the Mike on defense and be that guy on defense, then maybe he just plays with a little bit more freedom and plays better. But again, solid room talent wise. Edwin Cooper is solid. You're just hoping Franklin plays a little bit better coming into this year. Depth is okay. McDuffie's pretty solid, top 40-ish guy last year. And if Franklin does continue to play horribly, I think we can see extra snaps out of him. It's a solid room. Nothing in particularly fantastic, and nothing particularly horrible. So you're looking at a solid room there. Needs to be solid with the way particularly in run defense, going forward. Secondary. This is an interesting group. We can start with Xavier McKinney, who's been good, very good since his trade over from the New York Giants. Just continues to play at a very high level. Evan Williams, solid again last year, 28th ranked safety on PFF. This is a good safety room. Depth is, okay. Javon Bullard can play there, but he's probably going to play a little bit more nickel. Perry Oladipo haven't played well, and or there just isn't a lot of snaps there either. So the top two are really good. It's a good room. You're looking at an above average safety room pretty comfortably, I think. But again, the depth not really here right now, and their best depth piece is probably just starting somewhere else in the room there. So we'll see there, but do like the safety room. The corner room is interesting to me. They add St. Juste, who had a really fantastic year last year. 11th best corner in the league, had a really good year. We've spoken about players a ton across these previews where players who have had long histories, 3-4 years of just not playing well, and then they have a really good year in their contract year. I'm very wary of players keeping that level the next year. And St. Juste falls into that category. And I'm not saying he can't be good and won't be good and won't keep that level, because it's very much perhaps he's just grown into that player. That's fine. He takes a bit of a hit for me for just not having the history there. And again, the small 16 game samples are tough in the NFL because, again, 1 year you're playing 17 games, you're only playing half the game on defense. It's not a ton of sample, but again, he was really good last year, and you just hope he carries over. I'm just not expecting him to carry over what he did last year, like, very comfortably. But again, he very well could, and we'll see. I would just be cautiously optimistic about St. Juste instead of just putting his assuming he's just going to be this level coming right on into it. So we'll see what that looks like. And again, it's just not a lot of snaps. And he played less snaps than normal last year, 400 snaps right about. So there are a couple of red flags with St. Juste. I'd like to see it. There's a good safety room behind him, and there's some solid play around him, but I would like to see it before I kind of just assume that he's just going to be this good. Keyshawn Nixon, pretty solid last year. His career numbers now continue to kind of move him forward. Takes a little step every single year, which is really good. That's what you like to see. Carrington Valentine's okay. Nothing spectacular. Currently hurt right now, so we'll see, but it looks like he'll be fine for the start of the year. Javon Bullard, we talked about, currently slated at nickel. Last year, was all right there. You want him to take another step. And he's probably just going to get more snaps there, particularly if there are injuries to players like Valentine and stuff, so we'll see. Depth here, Damani Jackson, rookie, we'll see. Kamal Hayden was solid in his snaps last year. Nothing fantastic, but we'll see. I am a little bit lower on the secondary, I think, than consensus. Again, there's plenty of room to go up for me. We'll see what Bullard looks like when he's out there getting more snaps. St. Just, again, we spoke about, we'll see. Hoping for Valentine growth. But I think I'm just lower on the unit because of St. Just, and I just don't have him in that realm right now. Right now, for me, he's just an okay corner and not at the top end of corners like he's kind of coming into the year for. So we'll see what this unit looks like. But again, it's another room with depth problems. It could be, if Valentine comes back fine, we're looking at okay depth, nothing spectacular, but a little bit better depth than we're getting kind of in other places, particularly in the trenches. But we'll see. This is a weak link group. Again, we speak about the secondary a lot in terms of it being weak link. If you had one bad player floating around, he's going to get picked on. I don't think there are any bad players in this group. I think there's solidity all around, even what I think about St. Just. But if somebody were to be the weak link, I would bet on it being St. Just, just kind of having a really good shortened season last year and getting paid off of it. So we'll see. Again, I think this is I don't think there's a weak link in this group, really. I really like the safety room. I just worry about what St. Just is and can be going into it. So we'll see what this defense looked like. Again, 22nd last year. Without Micah Parsons, it's probably going to be pretty rough. Again, you're not going to get much out of his position. The depth here is not great on the defensive line at edge. So it's going to be a lot of Javon Hargrave, hopefully. McClellan, hopefully. Van Ness, hopefully, until Parsons gets back. And if none of those guys really get going, step in, play above their station, really, you're probably looking at a pass rush that doesn't do particularly well until he comes back, and then the secondary is going to be tested. We're going to see how good the secondary is right from the jump. I mean, they're going to get tested pretty aggressively, and we'll see what that unit looks like going into the year, but they are going to get tested pretty aggressively here, I think, and we're hoping, again, that we're looking at an okay defense before Parsons comes back. Parsons is such a good player that you don't need to be particularly good. You don't need a whole lot going on into it. And I forgot to mention, how did I forget to mention? Hold on a sec. I forgot to mention one guy in the safe secondary room. I'm not sure how I missed it. Mr. Cisse. That's because he's slated to start behind He's currently slated to be a backup. But again, second round pick at corner. Completely forgot to mention him as a depth piece. I knew I was missing somebody. But again, if the pass rush isn't hitting, then you're getting some work done in the secondary there. But again, Parsons is such a good player that if you can get like average secondary play, which I think we're going to get here, it should be noted. I've spoke down on what I feel like I've spoke down on the secondary room because I don't know what St. Just is going to be, and I think he could be a weak link kind of guy, but you're probably just going to get average play out of there. And with Parsons back, then you're looking at a decent defense because the pass rush is going to be elite, and he's going to be causing problems, getting pressures pretty comfortably, and the secondary is not going to have to defend as long. It's just the early portion here where, we could see some issues. So let's jump into the schedule. An interesting start here. These are all winnable games without Parsons, which is good. These are the things you kind of want here. At Minnesota, it's a tough one to start. And then you're at the Jets, home to Atlanta, at Tampa. Those are all winnable, and you're probably going to be favorite in all of them. You're going to be favored in the New York game, going to be favored in the Atlanta game, going to be picking Minnesota, and I'm not sure where people have Tampa rated. I think you'll be slight favorite, though that may be pick as well. They're all very, very winnable. Then you get Chicago and Dallas at home. You can have a go at those defenses. At Detroit will be very tough, and then we should have Parsons back at this stage for Carolina. Carolina's this Week 8 game. He's probably he wants to come back for Week 6 for the Dallas game. We'll see. And then at Detroit will be tough. And then Carolina at home is winnable. At New England will be fun. Minnesota at home. And then we're looking at the Rams, at New Orleans, and then Buffalo at home, Miami at home, at Chicago, Houston at home, Detroit at home. So this schedule does get difficult toward the back end. But as I said, all the games you kind of can hang in without Parsons are all at the front loaded. And, you can debate on whether that's good or bad, but you can, like, if you have the back end of this schedule, like at Los Angeles, Buffalo, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, like without Parsons, those are all probably losable games. But if you can win a couple on the front end and you have Parsons back, and now you're on equal footing pretty much throughout the entire season. So I quite like that. So we'll see what that looks like going in. It's not an easy schedule, but they'll be on equal footing pretty much all year long. So if you're going to perform and get into the playoffs, you've done it by being equal with everybody along the way. But we do have one bet here for this one. Jordan Love, 3,500 plus pass yards at minus 115. $10.96 bet for us in our challenge. I like this. Assuming he stays healthy, which again is a tough assumption because he missed 3 or 4 games last year and 2 the year before. But he would have hit 3,500 really comfortably in those ones. He hit 4,100 the year before those two. Again, the defense is going to be a problem pretty early, I think, and you're going to have to score points to win games. And you're getting some teams that you can kind of throw on here. The Jets, Atlanta, Tampa, Chicago, Dallas, Detroit, Carolina. You can throw on all these teams pretty comfortably. There might be some issues with the running back situation, the offensive line situation there in terms of gaining yards on running plays early downs. You might have to throw a lot more or have, a couple longer downs in there as well. So I like the idea that as long as he's healthy, he can get to 3,500. I think if he's healthy, he gets closer to 4,000. So we'll see what that looks like, but really like that one there. And that's what we've got for the Green Bay Packers. An interesting team, a team that's going to have 2 different seasons in it, one before Parsons, one after, pretty much. And hopefully this team stays healthy. If this team stays healthy, I've got no doubt it's a playoff team. It's all about the health here, though. There are a lot of spots with very little depth in some awkward, important positions. So there we are, Green Bay Packers. There we go. We'll see what we're getting later on in the season here.